It is April 13th, 1920. A massive, silent throng of spectators fills the newly paved walkways of Washington Square. The crowd is held back by a cordon of police and a regiment of United States Lancers. They form a rigid, hollow square around a small, classical white building in the center of a manicured garden. On a raised tribune facing the park, the governor of New York steps forward. He is flanked by the mayor, the inspector general of police, and high-ranking military brass. Looking out over the crowd, he makes a startling declaration. The very first government lethal chamber is officially open for public use. A wealthy, pristine society has gathered to celebrate the opening of a state-sanctioned suicide facility. In Robert W. Chambers' 1895 story collection, The King in Yellow, the United States of 1920 appears entirely flawless. Chicago has been rebuilt white and imperial, New York's slums have been replaced by beautiful parks, and the nation is entirely at peace. Yet a country with no wars and no poverty has actively decided to build a lethal chamber in every city, town, and village. This network of chambers serves as the final, absolute mechanism of a government obsessed with sterilizing its own history. The path to this perfect society required absolute control. The U.S. Army was reorganized under the rigid Prussian system, a highly centralized military command structure, and expanded to 300,000 men, with a territorial reserve of 1 million more. The government aggressively seized overseas territories. Investments in Cuba and Hawaii paid out 100%, and Samoa was annexed as a highly profitable coaling station. 6 massive squadrons of cruisers and battleships patrolled the navigable seas, creating an impregnable wall around the homeland. With foreign threats completely neutralized by this massive military apparatus, the state turned its focus entirely inward. They aimed that exact same precision at the American public. The government framed its next moves as self-preservation. They locked down immigration and purged demographics conflicting with their pristine vision. Foreign-born Jewish people were legally excluded. The black population was segregated into an isolated block called the Independent State of Swanee. Native Americans were systematically absorbed into the military machine. They were reduced to cavalry scouts wearing traditional costumes, forced to serve the very army that conquered them. By surgically removing cultural diversity and enforcing strict segregation, the state manufactured a monolithic population. Look closely at the inauguration in Washington Square. The Surgeon General presents the lethal chamber as a mercy, a painless exit for anyone suffering from physical pain or mental despair. Listen to his exact wording. He states, "It is believed that the community will be benefited by the removal of such people from their midst." This is a passive purge. The chamber acts as a filtration system built right into the city's architecture. The government doesn't need to arrest the physically weak, the mentally ill, or the non-compliant. By simply providing a beautiful, quiet room and removing the laws against suicide, the state relies on these individuals to eliminate themselves. Disguised as a progressive public healthcare initiative, the lethal chamber operates as the ultimate tool for authoritarian social control. Back in the square, the governor finishes speaking. The cavalry wheels back, the police hold their lines, and a solemn hush falls over the crowd. A young man with a pale face steps out from the silent spectators. He walks up the white marble steps toward the bronze doors. He pauses before the marble statues of the Fates. A pigeon flutters up from its perch, circling away to the east. The young man presses his hand to his face, slips inside, and the bronze doors close behind him. No one stops him. No one protests. This single, quiet action proves the government's psychological conditioning has worked perfectly. Half an hour later, the loiterers slouch away. Just outside the gilded iron railings of the death chamber, children play in the sunshine and nursemaids wheel baby carriages past lounging dragoons. Life simply goes on. The citizens in Chambers' world are not victims resisting a dictatorship. They are willing participants who actively maintain their own subjugation. When a society prioritizes aesthetic perfection over human complexity, absolute control doesn't arrive with sirens and jackboots. It arrives with cheering crowds, a brass band, and a ribbon-cutting ceremony.